Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. So there's a lot of English translation of Les Miserables, such as The Miserable Ones, The Outcast, The Wretched Poor, and The Victims or The Dispossessed. So Les Miserables is a French historical novel by Victor Hugo. It was first published in 1862 that is considered one of the greatest novels of the 19th century. So, Victor Hugo was born on February 26, 1802 in Besançon, France and died on May 22, 1885 at the age of 83 in Paris, France. So, who was Victor Hugo? Victor Hugo is a poet, novelist, and dramatist and is considered the most important of the French Romantic writers. Though regarded in France as one of the country's greatest poets, he is better known abroad for such novels such as Notre Dame de Paris or The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Les Miserables on 1862. What did Victor Hugo write? Victor Hugo produced an enormous output of work, including the novels Notre Dame de Paris on 1831 and Les Miserables, the plays Cromwell on 1827, Hernani on 1830, and Ruy Blas on 1838, and the poetry collections Les Châtiments on 1853 and Les Contemplations on 1856. So how did Victor Hugo influence others? Victor Hugo was an influential proponent of Romanticism. In a preface to his verse play Cromwell on 1827, he called for a drama of action which he saw as appropriate to modern man, the battleground of matter and spirit that could transcend classical categories and mix the sublime and the grotesque. What is Victor Hugo remembered for? Victor Hugo is remembered as a beloved writer of the people who knew how to write with the simplicity and power of common joys and sorrows. He is also remembered for the verbal inventiveness and technical virtuosity with which he created poems ranging from intimate lyrics to visionary and prophetic epics. So the characters of the novel Les Miserables. We have Jean Valjean. So Jean Valjean is Cosette's adopted father. Valjean is an ex-convict who leaves behind a life of hatred and deceit and makes his fortune with his innovative industrial techniques. He finds fulfillment in loving his adopted daughter and helping people who are in difficult situations, even when it means risking his own life and welfare. Valjean adopts pseudonyms to evade the police and combines a convict's street smarts with his newfound idealism and compassion. His whole life is a quest for redemption, and he ultimately finds bliss on his deathbed. The next is Cosette. Cosette is Fantine's daughter who lives as Valjean's adopted daughter after her mother dies. Cosette spends her childhood as a servant for the Cenardirs in Montfermeil, but even this awful experience does not make her hardened or cynical. Under the care of Valjean and the nuns of Petit Picpus, Cosette ultimately blossoms into a beautiful, educated young woman. She finds fulfillment in her love for Marius. Cosette is innocent and docile, but her participation in Valjean's many escapes from the law show that she also possesses intelligence and bravery. So next is Fantine. Fantine is a working class girl who leaves her hometown of Monchol-sur-Mer to seek her fortune in Paris. Fantine's innocent affair with a dapper student named Solomize leaves her pregnant and abandoned. Although she is frail, she makes a Herculean effort to feed herself and her daughter Cosette. Even as she descends into prostitution, she never stops caring for Cosette. She represents the destruction that 19th century French society cruelly wreaks on the less fortunate. Then we have Inspector Javert. He is a police inspector who strictly believes in law and order and will stop at nothing to enforce France's harsh penal codes. Javert is incapable of compassion or pity and performs his work with such passion that he takes on a nearly animal quality when he is on the chase. He nurses an especially strong desire to recapture Valjean, whose escapes and prosperity he sees as an affront to justice. Ultimately, Javert is unable to say with certainty that Valjean deserves to be punished. This ambiguity undermines the system of belief on which Javert bases his life and forces him to choose between hypocrisy and honor. Then Marius Pontmercy. He is the son of George Pontmercy, a colonel in Napoleon's army. Marius grows up in the home of his grandfather, M. Gillenormand, a monarchist. Marius has an identity crisis when he learns the real reason for his separation from his father, and this crisis sets him on the path to discovering himself. An innocent young man, Marius is nonetheless capable of great things and manages both to fight on the barricades and successfully curse the love of his life, Cosette. Then we have Colonel George Pontmercy. He is an officer in Napoleon's army and Marius' father. Pontmercy is severely wounded at the Battle of Waterloo and mistakenly believing that Cenardir has saved his life. He asks that Marius honor this debt. Although we know little about Pontmercy's personal life, his politics greatly influenced the young Marius. So Fauchelevent is a critic of Valjean's while Valjean is the mayor of Monchol-sur-Mer under the assumed name of Madeleine. Fauchelevent becomes indebted to Valjean when Valjean saves him from a carriage accident. When they meet again years later, Fauchelevent returns the favor by hiding Valjean and Cosette in a convent. Then, Madame Cenardir. Madame Cenardir is Monsieur Thénardier's wife. She is just as evil as her husband and takes special pleasure in abusing Cosette. In later years, she becomes her husband's most devoted accomplice and is particularly enthusiastic about her schemes to rob Valjean and Cosette. Then Monsieur Thénardier. Monsieur Thénardier is a cruel, wretched, money-obsessed man who first appears as Cosette's keeper and tormentor. Thénardier extorts money from whomever he can, and he frequently serves as an informant to whoever will be the highest. His schemes range from robbery to fraud to murder, and he has strong ties to the criminal underworld in Paris. Blinded by greed, Thénardier is incapable of loving other human beings and spends every minute in pursuit of money. He is also the main antagonist of the novel. He and his wife demand more and more money of Fantine for raising Cosette that it drives Fantine to her deathbed. Monsieur Thénardier is a former innkeeper who will do anything for money. Azelma Thénardier. She is the Thénardier's younger daughter. Azelma grows up pampered and spoiled, but ends up enduring the same poverty as the rest of her family. Gavroche, the Thénardier's oldest son. Gavroche is kicked out of the house at an early age and becomes a Parisian street urchin. He is a happy-go-lucky child who enjoys the small pleasures of life and demonstrates unusual generosity toward those even less fortunate than he is. He is also fierce and brave and plays a decisive role in the barricade even though he doesn't have a gun. Karfirak. He is a member of the ABC Society and is one of Marius' closest friend, and lends him money during the desperate days after his separation with his grandmother. Karfirak is an influential speaker and very appealing to the ladies. Next is Manthew, a poor and educated man who unfortunately resembles Valjean so much that he is identified, tried, and almost convicted as Valjean. Manthew proves to be too dim-witted to defend himself successfully, revealing the callousness of the French justice system. So, here he is. Then we have Grantaire, a member of the ABC Society, and he differs from the other students in that he has little interest in revolution. He spends most of his time drinking and chasing after women. However, he deeply admires the radical Enjolras and spends time with the ABC Society despite his disagreement with their ideals. Then Madame Baptisteen. She is the sister of Bishop Myriel. She is a kind and religious woman devoted to her brother. M. Gillenormand is Marius' 90-year-old maternal grandfather. Gillenormand prevents Marius from seeing his father George Pontmercy because he fears that Pontmercy will corrupt Marius. A devout monarchist, Gillenormand rejects the French Revolution outright and also rejects Pontmercy's Napoleonic beliefs. Although Gillenormand's classist views sometimes offend Marius, he truly loves his grandson and ultimately does what is necessary to make Marius happy. So, Petit Gervais is a small boy whom Valjean robs shortly after leaving Dean. Then Mabeuf. So Mabeuf is a church warden who tells Marius the truth about his estranged but devoted father. He and Marius later becomes close friends. He loves books but is forced to slowly pawn his magnificent collection during a time of poverty. Patron Minette. Actually, for people, Patron Minette is a Parisian crime ring so close-knit that its four members, Montparnasse, Babet, Cliquot and Guillaumière, are described as four heads of the same violent beast. Patron Minette controls all the crime in one section of Paris and assists in the Cenardier's ambush of Valjean. Felix Solomize. Felix Solomize is Fantine's lover in Paris. Solomize is a wealthy student who thinks much less of his relationship with Fantine than she does. He gets Fantine pregnant and then abandons her as a joke. Solomize is Cosette's biological father, although the two never meet. Then we have Combeferre. He is a member of the ABC Society, second in command to Enjolras. He provides a more practical focus to Enjolras' intensity. He is said to represent the philosophy of the revolution. So Fully is also a member of the ABC Society. He is the only member of the group who is not a student but rather a worker who makes funds for a living. He is an orphan and taught himself to read and write. Then Jean Prévert. Jean Prévert is also a member of the ABC Society. He loves languages and history, and he is the quietest member of the group. Jolie is still a member of the ABC Society and is a hypochondriac who studies medicine. Still, he has a very happy disposition. And lastly is Leslie, also known as Lely, or the Eagle or Bossuet, and is also a member of the ABC Society. He is often unlucky but still maintains a happy disposition. He became friends with Marius when he covered for him during a roll call in the university. So the conflict of the story Les Miserables. Valjean struggles to transform himself from a thief into an honest man. Over the years, he struggles to stay a step ahead of the zealous police officer Javert and tries to raise his adopted daughter Cosette. Jean Valjean broke his parole and is living his life in fear that Javert will catch him and take him from Cosette. Javert's life goal is to capture Valjean and bring him to justice. And to sum up the major conflict, Javert is constantly on the hunt for Valjean.